Be advised, the opinions and views of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
Naibag gabi, masanto siya sa labi insi kayo amin, maayong gabi sa Tibok Mindanao, Visayas, ug sa Luzon. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Ito po ang Republika, and I am Erik Espina. I'm going to cut short my usual introduction in presenting to our guest for tonight. It's suffice it to say, let's just call him Secretary Jose Almonte. Good evening, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, Eric, and thank you for the very thoughtful introduction.
Our topic for tonight will be what ails the Philippine state, and I think a lot of people have a prescription as to or an idea of what ails the Philippine state. But I think you have your own perspective on what is really the substantive issues that is involved in what really ails the Philippine state. If you look at, for example, in the area of our society, what's wrong with the Philippine society, or what's right about Philippine society?
Well, Eric, let me just quote the World Bank, because every time they issue a paper on the Philippines, more or less what ails the Philippine society is included, is in the paper.
Okay.
And normally there are two related. One is what they call regulatory capture.
Regulatory capture.
Capture. The other one, which is more insidious, and it's really a very debilitating form of captivity, is what the World Bank calls state capture. Now, may I quote the World Bank on this? It says that the weakness of the Philippine state is in the formulation of national policies, in their implementation. They are often or all the time in the service of vested interests rather than the common good, unquote. More or less, this is the quote. No, not exactly the wording, but that is the substance of the World Bank conclusion. So that is the situation. So what happens here? The consequences for all of this. Now, we are the laggard in the region. Our economy is practically on its knees. The income gap is very wide. It's 30 times. And because of this, we are host to the last communist insurgency in the world. An insurgency that is no longer driven by communist ideology. But it derives its life, its sustenance from the injustice of poverty. A poverty that is caused by this situation of captivity of the regulatory institution and the state. Now, ano ba ang sinasabi nito? It means that in general, the governance in this country has failed. But we cannot blame the government just for this. I think we have to look up into ourselves. and see where really the root causes of all of this. Why is the government failing? Why are our leaders failing? Are we, the electorate, the people, not vigilant enough, or not wise enough,
Or not mature enough?
or not mature enough to elect the leaders that we want? You know, among the countries in the world today, in the Middle East, for instance, in North Africa, and the Middle East, the MENA countries, so to speak, they are still fighting for democracy, for their freedom. After a long, long period of time since the war, we have been, you know, we are among the oldest. The Philippines is the oldest democracy in Asia.
Yes, yes.
We have regained our liberty in 1986. And up to now, our country is a laggard. It has not progressed compared to our neighbors. Why? Now, is it because that after acquiring the tools to build the nation, what are these tools? Democracy is a tool,
Yes.
it's a means.
Yes.
Freedom
Yes.
is an end and a means. Now, why are we not using this? Bakit po hindi ginagamit natin itong tools na ito to build the nation? Ginagamit natin to build ourselves at the expense of the nation. What is the use of being rich and powerful in a nation that fails?
So, what is causing this? Why are we here? Is it the deterioration of the choice of leadership? Is it the system of government? Is it the present constitution? Is it because crime pays? If you steal more, the better. That way, government negotiates with you rather sends you to jail, or the proverbial nobody really goes to jail not unless you're caught red-handed.
Eric, the answer to that question is complex.
Okay.
But let's just simplify. You know,
Yes, yes.
because we are all in this together. We made a mess out of our nation, tayong lahat. But our leaders should understand that because they are the better off, they share a bigger share of the responsibility.
Shouldn't they take majority of the responsibility given that?
Well, they have to. But as I'm saying, we are all part of it.
Yes.
So to answer your question, siguro, you know, yesterday I was in a fora and similar question was asked.
Yes, yes.
And maybe I'll repeat what I said there. Alam mo, sabi nila raw, and this is why, by the way, I'm a very simple man. I read the daily bread in the Philippine Star.
Okay, okay.
So may I share this to our people, maybe
Yes,
they have read it. Ang tendency raw ng mamamayan ng tao, when they are appointed to an office or they are elected to an office, is to effect the change. To make a change.
Yes, yes.
President Obama, that was his campaign platform. The change was the change we can do, etc. You know. And it is his program of government as of now. Pero sabi ng anecdote na ito that it misses a very fundamental point. The fundamental point is that God, the Lord, never intended a person to effect a change. Ang intention ng Panginoon is to change us, to change the person. Only when the Lord has changed the person, or the person has accepted the change that the Lord wants in him, can he effect change anywhere. Other than that, he cannot effect a change. Now, medyo siguro, baka ito may
This is very spiritual, huh?
Well, it is, you may call it spiritual, but to me, it is very relevant to answer the question of why are we here? Because all these things you mentioned are all consequences of a fundamental action that has not been done. Now, I give you an example what I mean. Okay, sabi ko nga sa iyo, we recover the liberty, freedom.
Yes.
But we are not using it to build the nation. We are using it responsibly for our benefit at the expense of the nation, almost sometimes, or maybe all the time. Now, how could we redress that? Yan ang tanong mo eh. How could we rectify that? Now, there are many ways. Well, I think you have heard, even when we were still in the grades, sasabihin sa atin that you have to exercise your freedom with responsibility. But alam natin that if you can exercise your freedom without responsibility and you are the only one and the Lord knows, and, more likely you will be irresponsible, right? Now, this is the connection to this anecdote that I was telling you. Because if you allow yourselves to be changed by the Lord according to His will,
And not according to your will.
not according to our will, but according to the will of the Lord in His terms. And what is His will? May I mention, I'm not a preacher, you know.
Yes.
His will is love and mercy. That's according to the preacher. Okay? And that is according to the gospel. Anyway, I'm not an authority of the gospel, but that is what I heard. But I just mentioned this because it's relevant to my argument. And my argument is this, na kung mag-exercise tayo ng ating freedom, na may responsibility, and we define that responsibility in terms of the change effected of us in the Lord, which is His will.
And a conscience that speaks from within.
Yeah, of course. Imagine if when the Filipinos exercise their freedom, and the responsibility corresponding to it is defined in terms of the will of God, of love and mercy, in terms of the truth of the Lord. The truth in the Christian cosmology is Jesus Christ.
Yes.
If you define it in that terms, your responsibility, sabi nga ng, hindi ba, sabi ni Lord, the truth shall make you free. This is when you exercise your freedom, defined by the truth of God, that freedom, that truth will make you free, meaning you will have the real freedom. Now, well, pardon me for this in your show, you know, but I am very serious of this explanation. I am not the authority on this matter, but reason will tell us that there is logical connection in what I am trying to say, insofar as our secular behavior is concerned.
But how many people are like you, Mr. Secretary, that can seriously see the connection between conscience, public service, and a nation or a public that has to be taught and has to be educated?
Eric, that's why the Lord put you here. What is the mission of GNN? I know there are three, according to BBC.
Yes.
To inform, to educate,
yes.
to entertain.
Yes.
That's why you are here.
But in our times, I think there is more entertainment rather than information and education.
Well, let's put it this way. You entertain, and at the same time, in the process of entertainment, educate and inform.
How many of the elite, how many of the learned can take the time out to be responsible for their status, for their nation, for the level of education that they have received, and in that sense, be able to impart this kind of knowledge, this kind of commitment to a mass of people who may be disjointed based on a culture, a subculture on their own, and the elite that has its own culture.
I am not pulling your leg or trying to elevate GNN. I've been interviewed many times on TV. This is the first time I was able to express this sentiment. Because you gave me time.
Of course.
Yeah. Now, whether this is relevant to the public or what, I sense it is relevant according to you, then they can research further. They can study further. Because this is only indicative of what is wrong with us. Because you see, when I was National Security Advisor, palagi akong tinatanong, what is the greatest threat to the nation?
Yes.
Ay, ang sagot ko simple lang, tayo. We are the threat to the nation. So, why? Yeah, because of our attitude. Because of the way we exercise our freedom. We never allow democracy to work in our country. We always cheat in election, everybody, including the candidates. You see? Including the voters who made it for them. We do not do things according to what is expected of us, according to the system that we have acquired for ourselves by fighting so hard. We invested so much life, so much blood to acquire democracy, to acquire freedom. Because these are the tools to build a national community that is, accepted by the world as civilized.
Could it be, Mr. Secretary, you say that we ourselves are the threat. Could it be because there is a problem in terms of still trying to understand our identity, who we are as a people,
Well,
to be able to recover a sense of
okay,
purpose?
let me shift the analysis to another dimension.
Yes, yes.
You know, we have time. No?
Yes, 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 sure, sure, yes.
Let me shift it to another dimension. You know, over generations, our political economy, just to clarify your point, our political economy has been, has enabled a few of our people to acquire the wealth of the nation, you know, not by investing their capital or their genius to make wealth, create wealth. No. It was done primarily by manipulating the political process. What I'm trying to say is this. There's nothing wrong to create wealth. That is, in fact, to me, the duty of the state to create the conditions so that every Filipino becomes efficient wealth creators. To me, that should be the state's obligation. But when a few people manipulate the political process to acquire the wealth of the nation, that kind of political entrepreneurship is a no-no.
Okay. Is
So
there a marriage
what
now?
happened? What happened? Over the years, the sense of political entitlement, of personal entitlement, becomes very strong. Stronger than their sense of their common good, of what is supposed to be the common good. So that is why we are in this situation, just to explain why we are there.
And the
I
state,
hope this analysis helps.
yeah, oh, definitely. So therefore, the state suffers in this sense because now you have a marriage of business interests as well as political interests that undertake some kind of a polygamous marriage.
You know, I am not trying to say that Putin is this and that, you know, but as president, I noted that he will not allow some Russian elite to engage in both in business and politics. If I heard him correctly, I should exercise the politics. You businessmen should exercise business,
Yes.
but do not engage in politics.
But in the Philippines, is it an incestuous kind of a relationship? As of now?
There is a convergence. And I hope it's not becoming organic, you know. It's a convergence, you know. And we have to break this. We have to break this. And I think I have a very good, I have a very hopeful that the Filipinos basically are good, whether they are those who have abused or those who have been abused. The bad people have good things in them, and the good people have also a share of the bad things. So all of us are inadequate. But I think the time is calling us to really be serious, look into ourselves, and now begin to really address the nation. Otherwise, we might lose the Philippine state, you know. If we do not work together.
From your perspective, is it getting better or it's getting tougher and it's getting, should I say, worse?
Well, I will not go into. May I just give some indication?
Yes, yes.
If the nation, if the government, if the state is doing something that is, for instance, preparing the Filipinos to be educated, preparing them to be healthy, creating the opportunities for them to be able to use those skills, intellectual or otherwise, to take advantage of opportunity that the government has created. If I can see that, then there is an opportunity that the nation can create wealth and be respected in the world, you know. But as of now, I cannot see it.
You do not see it?
Yeah, I do not see it. This government is a people power government. President Aquino is a very special president. He is elected by the people in a people power election. And a true one, to me. But it's not enough. You cannot, you cannot build a nation by merely investigating the corrupt, although that is very important.
Yes.
We have a vision, that I think is accepted by the nation and the world. A nation living in dignity, in freedom, in justice, in prosperity, at peace with itself and the world. That's a beautiful vision.
Yeah.
But we should break this down into series of national goals and have roadmap for each goal so that we can attain them.
Okay, Mr. Secretary, we're going to pause for a few reminders, and we left off with the word roadmaps. We're going to find out, does the good Secretary see any roadmaps ahead of our time when Republika returns?
Yung mga hindi
Okay,
sige.
we're back in Republika, and we're talking to Secretary Jose Almonte. Before the break, before the pause, you talked about roadmaps. Do you see any of those roadmaps, or do we only see a one issue or one program government where just corruption seems to be the only topic that it wants to really head-on tackle?
You know, Eric, the sense na wala silang nakita roadmap is very broad. Both here in the Philippines and outside, they ask me, and they cannot see there is a roadmap. I just talked to a friend yesterday. Alam mo, Jo, kami sang-ayon sa sinasabi ng ating presidente. We believe in what he is saying, na kailangan yung matuwid na landas, straight path, etc. But the straight path that we see is merely investigating past scandal, which is correct, which is good. We admire that. We support that, sabi nila. Pero kung wala tayong goal, wala tayong roadmap, at saka tuloy-tuloy tayo sa straight path, eh baka nahulog tayo sa bangin. Baka ang katapusan nito ay precipice. And you know, these are apprehensions, these are worries, and I think they are very legitimate concerns. So I think the administration is aware of this. This is not the first time this is being mentioned. So I think the time is come. Ako naman, ang sabi ko, alam mo, I want this government to succeed for the sake of the nation. And as an old man, I can only pray, you know. Now,
do you see any danger to a government or an administration that has only it seems to be a one-program government, which is strongly being anti-corruption, anti-graft, because the danger is, since they set the bar too high, the same bar, the same rating must also apply to them. And in that sense, if they fail, or they allow people to fail.
Eric, let us look at corruption in a wider perspective. Corruption is not merely stealing government money or what. Of course, that's very bad. No? But it's by definition, corruption it means adulteration. You know, we are speaking in a borrowed language. So
yes, correct.
I am being careful of defining these words. I may not know their finer nuances, but the general meaning is that adulteration, impure, becoming impure. Hindi ko naman sinasabi na kung ano, I hope I'm not misunderstood. But you see, one of the nation, as I saw it before, need a fundamental reform to move to clarify the environment. One was to strike down a monopoly that really was obstructing the growth of the nation. In the non-land area, it was the communication sector, the PLDT. Of course, there was so much obstruction in trying to bring that down. But in the end, we're able to, the government of President Ramos was able to do it, in spite of the objection of the owner and all the others who thought they will be affected. Today, what is driving the Philippine economy? It is the communication sector, because it was open to competition. Now, what happened to the owners there, the old owner, the Coangco family and the others? They have become richer than before. Now, which is very good. This is the aim of government. You see? And it's not they who became rich. Again, the World Bank made a study here on the multi-pool effect of the communication sector when it was open to everybody, where even the smallest farmer in the, the hinterlands, they can communicate. And it helped. There was a study about a small fisherman who has a cell phone. He was able to know the exact price of the galunggong in the palengke. So yung mga middlemen, hindi siya maluko. So he increased his, his revenue in the process.
You mentioned about adulteration. A former national security advisor in the past administration said, COMELEC itself is the threat to democracy.
Yes.
You agree with that?
If they do not do their job, yeah. If they do not do their job, it can destabilize. But, okay, we will discuss that. Can I just proceed with
Yes,
this?
please, go ahead.
So, so what I'm saying is that this reform, if we are talking about creating opportunities, this reform is key, is crucial. And it only means that we have to introduce competition in Philippine life, whether in the economy, in business, in
politics,
all sectors, and in politics.
Yes.
Everywhere. Just introduce competition so that people can fully bring out the best in everyone, in the best way possible. Now, all right, this is in the non-land area that was done. How about in the land area? Now, I'm sorry to mention this, but just for this discussion. We have so many big haciendas in the Philippines. But the difficulty in reforming them, because they are waiting for Hacienda Luisita to be reformed. Now, when the CARP law was made, an element there called SDO was introduced to defend the Hacienda Luisita from being treated in the same way as the others. And so it was never reformed. Now, when you use the power of the state to protect your property, is that not adulteration?
Good question.
And when the impact...
Do you have an answer for that?
Well, you answered it.
Do you have
And the impact to the nation is very profound, because it prevents the nation from being land reformed.
So is that part of the matuwid na landas?
Well, I'm not the one mandated to run this country. As of now, we are only analyzing.
But as a citizen, do you think that this supports the national program of matuwid na daan?
Well, by definition, apparently, ito ay sa labas ng matuwid na
landas. Because you have to set the first example. As president, as father of the nation.
Yeah, well, I'm mentioning this with all due respect to everyone, because we cannot be pretending to because in the end, all of this will come back to us in the end, and that is my sense. In the end,
you're optimistic, Mr. Secretary, but is there really reason for optimism, or it's just perhaps the last great hope for us?
To tell you frankly,
there's nothing left.
Eric, my optimism derives from what I know of the Filipino people. In general, I have been in government. Well, I was just National Security Advisor.
Yes.
But for 6 years, I had the opportunity to interact with our people from all levels. And I had the opportunity to, work with them. And my sense is our people are very good. During the time of, for instance, President Ramos, when they knew that the government was sincere in trying to really introduce competition into the national life, many of our people in the United States and Europe who are very skilled, engineers, etc., scientists, etc., they came back. But when the government changed, well, some of them, not all, but those who talked to me, they left again. Now, in fact, during the time, how our people cooperated, even the secessionist movement in the South, they wanted to cooperate with us and help. In fact, Ramos was able to effect this GRP MNLF agreement September 2, 1996. And the MILF was on the way. The late Hasim Salamat was on the way of agreeing with the government. Why? Because they were convinced that the policy of President Ramos was really to address the welfare, the obstruction to the welfare of the Muslim communities. So their wives, their fathers, their mothers, their grandmothers, etc., were beginning to be convinced and tell the Muslim fighters that, look, you better review what you are doing, and maybe we can have a better life with this government. We were on that side because Hasim Salamat at that time in Camp Abubakar, he requested President Ramos through General Soriano to have irrigation in his camp, to have electricity, to construct the madrasa schools, etc., and many others. All of this were being done, and the community was becoming very, very, very happy about the whole thing. So for us, for me, as the one supervising the security component of the Ramos government, I look at this as all positive indicators of a peaceful end to all of this conflict.
Are you optimistic now that this new government is undertaking peace talks with the left
now,
and with the
that
MILF?
is okay, but that's not enough. They have to address, for the left, they have to address the basic root cause of why the left is fighting. To the secessionists, they have to look at the reason for the secession. And as I said, if you take care of the community, the well-being of the people, Eric, I don't want to transform this into a lecture forum. But
No, please go ahead. But is there no foreign component to some of these insurgencies that we're facing?
I think we have been paranoid because of the Cold War. I tell you, the world today is different. The world today is very interconnected. And they look at the progress in one country as in their interest. So they want, the security today is no longer against anybody. Security is with everyone, not against someone. It is with everyone. In other words, the prosperity of your neighbor adds to your security.
Your own prosperity as well.
And that is the foundation of security. Why? In the coin of national security, the other side is well-being. If the well-being of the people are taken care of, the nation is secure. Especially if the people feels that they have a stake in the system. And how could they have a stake in the system if their talents, their potentials are utilized to create wealth for their own definition of what is self-respect, what is dignity. And that is the basis of security.
Do you see uh, personalities, voices within the present administration that is on the same track, the way you are thinking?
Well, I heard the president, for instance, in some of his statements talking about a level playing field. Well, I hope they mean what they are saying. When you,
I hope this is not just a title that
I hope
or a
it's not just
punchline,
rhetoric,
or a punchline, and that has substance to it.
but
to
the
back it.
substance of that is underneath the level playing field is very hard work,
Yes.
because that is where the conflict is generated. Because when you level the field, you take away the unnecessary privileges of some groups and allow the rest of the community to be able to also breathe, to be able to also work out their own thing, And in the process of doing that, you generate conflict. And you do that in a democracy by consensus. You implement it in terms of lawmaking, So that's why during the time of Ramos, how many laws were passed? 229 for 6 years. It is about, in my computation, about one law every 9 days for 6 years. And because we are a democracy, all these things has to be translated into law. All these policies will become, so it will be legal, Now, this is how you level the field. You have to ensure that there are laws, that laws are implemented well, because it was sinasabing, this is not a rule of man, this is a rule of law, so all these policies should be translated legally so that they can be enforced by the courts. And the courts should be good enough, reasonable enough to ensure that these are implemented. I am not implying they are corrupt, but I am saying that they just be reasonable and fair.
This present government has to do a lot of work. It has to do a
very
lot
much
of multitasking. But is its effort and energy seem to be too overly focused, and its energies dissipated by running after the past personalities and those that are still incumbent, and they want them removed?
I don't know, Eric. Sabi ng aking kaibigan mukhang kulang sa rekado. Yung itong gobyerno natin, kulang sa rekado. So,
I will use FBR's term. Dapat bibingka, luto sa taas, luto sa ilalim.
Well, that is the metaphor of former President Ramos, which I think is a very apt one. Because you cannot do things from the top alone. You really have to mobilize the base, the people below. Because after all, it's not theoretical that the authority, the power of government emanates from the people. That's real. And the policymakers, the leaders, should by their decision and actions reflect that reality, that authority comes from the people.
FBR had a good coterie of cabinet members and good choices. That was the reflection of his leadership, his administration style, his management, his leadership. And we cannot really escape the aspect that under this administration, the same standard has to be applied based on the choices and the appointments that he has made. Are you happy with the choices? Are you unhappy with some of the choices?
Well, I know some of them, they are good. I don't know many.
More good, less bad?
Well, I hope they're all good. Anyway, if they're not so good, they have all the time to make themselves good.
Okay.
So,
at this point, everything should be as far as status quo. Do you feel some people should give in to new appointments?
Well, appointments and withdrawal of appointments are really presidential prerogatives. So I leave that to them.
I will ask you, where lies a question that you're very familiar with. Where lies the greatest threat to the country? Maybe it's no longer external. You say it is internal. But putting hands and feet into our discussion, are we talking about changing the Constitution, changing our form of government? Because it seems, I hope you will agree with me, Secretary, that it seems the political parties no longer are as important as they used to be. It seems it is media now that is undertaking what the people are complaining about. Media is right away there. Media seems to be the nominating factor for our new leaders. That's why it seems popularity now is more important than even your ability.
Eric, all the things you mentioned are indicators that our house is not in order. They are indicators. And development is no longer a mystery. It has been done everywhere. In our region, most all of them are doing it correctly. And all of them have political parties. They have a reasonable commission on elections. They have working judicial system. They have a good education system. They have a very good infrastructure. All of these are they are improving them, etc. In fact, so the media should play according to what is supposed to be its role: to inform, to educate, to entertain. But it should not make policy.
But it seems to be like it's part of the vetting process already for the next senators, the next presidents.
That is the reform that we have to do. We cannot allow that to continue if it is happening. And the media should know that. They should limit themselves, because you cannot be, you cannot be the judge and at the same time be the executive, It cannot be that way, But one is...
media will also say, in the inability of the government to be able to address a certain problem, and some public officials are unable to hear the shrill of our people, they come to us, so we are the ones that announce it and get action done. What can you say of that?
Yes, of course. That is an emergency. They can extend help if it is an emergency. But it does not mean that is the role, that they should do that repeatedly. They should do it as an emergency, give it to the proper authorities, and explain to the public that this is not our job, but we are going to take it temporarily because no one is doing it.
Isn't it unfortunate that our people are now, as a way of habit, because they can get things done right away if they go to the media, that now they prefer to go to the media than go to government?
Well, this is what I'm saying, Eric, that we have to reform, because when the media is no longer performing what is to do, but more than that. When our religious groups are also doing other things other than their religious and spiritual duties. And imagine if the government, in fact, I told you I was so uncomfortable explaining initially about a kind of spiritual component of how to change ourselves, because I'm not the expert on that. But I'm doing it as a matter of necessity in this dialogue. But I am aware of my limitation and what I'm not supposed to do.
But do you see that there is also a problem in terms of not just media, but the ownership of media per se, getting involved in politics?
Well, you are right. All of this we have to change, because our media is not just involved in politics. It's a medium of business.
Correct.
Of politics. And media is a tool, you see. Of course, this is happening all over the world. But that is why we have this financial crisis, well, as they say, because of greed, etc. But it's not greedy. But in short, what I'm saying is, the human nature is such that all of us, everyone, regardless of color or creed or whatever, we have all our own share of frailties, of weaknesses, etc. But what's really important is for us to be able to, well, if possible, in fact, kung pwede, use this as a means to strengthen ourselves rather than weaken us.
Mr. Secretary, final words.
Well, thank you, Eric. All I have said are final words.
Correct, and they should be taken to heart.
So I may just say that really, I think this is the time for us to take stock of ourselves. We are all in this together. All of us made this mess together of our nation. And all of us can, only us can rectify it. As I used to say, we cannot import good governance, We had to do it ourselves. We cannot also export our politicians who did not get it right.
Or deport them.
I cannot do that.
Okay.
So they are all ours, and we have to correct them.
Okay, well, we'd like to thank Secretary Jose D. Almonte for taking the time out. At least it was a very interesting 1 hour, and the discussion, I'm sure a lot of people will be trying to read in between the lines and trying to read the fine print what the good secretary really intended to say without really saying it. But anyway, this won't be the last time. We will be checking up on him once in a while and see where he's going and what advice he can impart to the new generation of Filipinos especially. Marami pong salamat, Secretary.
Salamat, Eric.
And
It's a privilege.
tulad ng sinasabi ko sa lahat ng mga nanonood sa atin, magmasid, makialam, higit sa lahat, manindigan sapagkat wala pong magmamahal sa Pilipino kung hindi ang Pilipino. Ako po si Erik Espina. Daghang salamat sa inyong tanan.